Welcome to The Funnel Vision, the podcast where we pull back the curtains on business decisions, GT emotions, and hard-won lessons shaping how B2B companies grow in 2026. Today's episode is brought to you by Hera Digital. We work with B2B businesses to build predictable sales pipelines through RevOps engineering and revenue infrastructure. If that's the kind of foundations you're looking to implement into your business, comment the word engine below and somebody will reach out to you. I'm your host, Jenny Vo, and today I'm joined by someone doing something genuinely different in the business world. Tibo is a co-founder of Tap for Change, a for-profit social business built on simple but powerful ideas. Tibo spent years leading marketing and e-commerce inside established companies, running give-back programs that always seemed to be the first thing businesses cut when budgets got tight. The experience became the question that eventually became Tap for Change, a platform connecting businesses with charities at no cost, turning purpose from a line item to something with measurable commercial value. Tibo, welcome to the Funnel Vision.
Thanks, Jenny. Thanks for the intro. Very well done.
You've spent years heading up give back programs inside established companies. What was the moment you realized the model was broken and you had to build something from scratch to fix that problem?
Well, to be honest, the thing is, I've been involved, even on my personal life, I've been involved with charity since I was like a kid. And as such, my first real job, if I can say so, was actually starting a business. And from the moment I started the business, I always wanted to do something, to give back to the community. So yeah, if I started my first one, I was 22, I think. I kept it for a few years. But what I mean by that is that give back programs have always been something that I've implemented anywhere I worked, or I've tried to implement. Sometimes some brands were not as keen as they are now. And nowadays it's become, table stakes. Like 90% of businesses in Australia actually have some kind of give back programs, whereas it wasn't always the case. But well, the market is demanding it, so everyone is doing it, and that's good. But I guess when I really realized things needing to change, it was a bit of as always, I suppose it's a bit of a progressive thing. At first, my thinking was we need to be making donating and helping others much easier. So it was more driven by the consumer side of things. I was not happy with the fact that it would be so complicated to find a charity, who to donate to, who to trust. There's so many charities out there, 60,000 in Australia. And you end up donating to the ones that harass you on the street. Actually, it's not the charity that harasses you. It's more the charity muggers, third parties that get a huge cut of what you're going to be donating. Those phone calls and so many ways that I thought were not really in line with what we expect as users, as consumers. It's not really a very great donor experience. So it started from there, and I started at a time to come up with some kind of ideas in my mind and, wireframe and everything. But then there was an experience, I guess, that made it more clear to me that we needed really to involve the businesses in there and to change the game for businesses in the way they partner up with charities. And that's back then I was working as e-commerce and marketing, head of e-commerce and marketing for a retail company in Australia. COVID hit. And at the time, we were planning on having a committee to decide of where the give back program money was going to go and everything. So we were starting to formalize things. COVID hit and boom, all of a sudden we are being told, which made sense, too much uncertainty. We need to bring back any investment that doesn't bring an ROI, which I have to admit makes sense from a business point of view. But what if it actually made sense to support charities so that it actually creates growth instead of, the ever deeper kind of race to the bottom where you go for discounts and more discounts and add saturation and you do minus 80% and then another minus 20 above the minus 80. I thought we need to get out of that race to the bottom, do things differently in a way that would benefit everyone, I reckon.
Mm-hmm. I think what is really unique about what you're building at Tap for Change is really marrying a business to a charity and I'm not sure if I've described this correctly, but I described this to another person where it's essentially like Tinder, but for businesses to find the right charities and the one that actually makes sense to their purpose and to their mission, while also commercializing that motion. Because I think when we spoke last time, you said that there's going to be some friction because when we donate to charities, whether that's individual or a business aspect, we don't really know where that money is coming from. And I think one of those motions is where Tap for Change is trying to change as well. But what really stands out about your story, Tibo, is you've always had a very giving nature. Where I'm sort of wondering, where did that actually drive from? Because at least from my perspective, I didn't really get into that mind frame until I was probably mid-20s, late 20s. But you've had it from the start. And I'm really wondering, do you think that's from an environment perspective, or is it something you were just born with in your DNA?
Actually, it's hard to tell you. It's true that if I look at my brother, I got a bigger brother and a smaller sister. All of us are donating. I've always been donating and doing things, trying to help others. Suppose we've been very conscious of how privileged we are. And I don't mean by that we are rich people or anything like that, but more that we've been privileged in the world compared to so many. When we were young, parents on our cash, my parents had a friend so I'm French as you can hear.
Couldn't tell.
What gave it away? But yeah, I remember that when we were kids, one of their friends was a refugee from Algeria, the political refugee. He slept on our couch for months. I suppose these plus other things, just the fact that on the streets you would see in France so many people without a home struggling. I guess it kind of triggered this desire to help. Plus, I've been boxing a very big part of my life, and in France the boxing scene is a bit different than what it is in Australia. It's a very often a much more let's say a lower income kind of a population. I guess it also made us see everything that is out there, and again how privileged we've been. So I suppose that's where it's coming from.
I'm really interested why you decided to start Tap for Change with the perspective of changing the way that businesses approach charities and vice versa in Australia over France.
I was here already. I'm having a good time in Australia, so no really plans to go back to France, to be honest. So yeah, that's really why here. But also because in Australia things are a lot easier actually to start implementing. It's much easier to start to be an entrepreneur in Australia than in France, in my opinion. So yeah, that's probably why. But also there was something that kind of triggered everything on the business side. We talked about it, but you remember the bushfires back in 2020? At the time when this happened, I was like, okay, I'm going to be doing something about that. And I struggled so much to make something happen. Like, I was calling charities, registered to be a reservist, fireman and everything. Never got a phone call back. Was told, yeah, give us money, but that's it. We don't need any more people. And at the time I thought, okay, it's not great. There's something wrong, in that world, even more than what I was thinking of. It's too hard to go and help others. And well, long story short, I ended up building a team of 12 of us and going down to Mogo in the south of Sydney to go and help this village that had been completely destroyed for 3 weeks in a row. And that was 3 weekends in a row. And that was an incredible experience. But I guess that kept pushing me. It felt like things were pushing me, to keep trying to build this thing and yeah, just help not just the businesses, not just the people, not just the charities, but the whole ecosystem.
And I think, well, on behalf of Australia, thank you for building something meaningful here first, because I don't see that the ceiling being the Australian market only, because there are charities globally, right? And I can see it making an impact on a global scale. Obviously, once we test in the Australian market to see the viability, because I feel like if you can make it in Australia, you can make it almost in any other nation. But it's a great testing ground in my experience. But Tap for Change is structured as a PTY Ltd, and that's an LLC for my American audiences. But with that, the two foundations that sit inside it, not only a charity, not an NGO, it's a deliberate call from Tap for Change perspective. Walk us through the reasoning, because I think most people seeing it from the outside would assume you're a non-for-profit, myself including.
Yeah, look, at first, what I was thinking is, I thought about everything when I really got started with this. Are we a charity? Do we become a social business? And at the end of the day, what we realized that anyways, we're going to be needing money to make things happen. And to raise funds, you probably better off if you are a business rather than a charity. And by that, if your goal is not to rely just on generosity and goodwill, which is what we're trying to switch from. We're not looking anymore at just relying again on for charities to rely on goodwill and generosity. We want charities to be able to rely on a more sustainable pipeline, because partnerships, because there is something in it for the donor. So it's kind of a whole mindset. And the way we structured the business is that indeed we have the platform that is a business that supports those two charities, two foundations, being a T4C Foundation and T4C Foundation Trust. And the logic of it is that, first of all, if we want to be capturing donations without having to, well, of the $10 that you give with GST and everything, if that would be a problem if we're not a charity, because we wouldn't want to have to pay taxes on the donation that then we would give back to the charities. It wouldn't make sense. But beyond that, yeah, we needed this kind of structure to be able to collect the donations and distribute it. Plus, we still have this concept that right now we're a PTY Ltd, but we at heart, what we are is an impact company. And I don't know what the right label is. Right now, we're not really into trying to get a B Corp label or anything. It might be happening one day, but that's not our immediate priority. What we want is to be a business for good, a business that allows others to do good. And part of it is that we need to be having this structure where we have our own foundations, and those foundations in the future, I hope, will be able to be doing a lot more things than just distribute money. Right now, we're still very, early stage. So we've made our assumptions, we made our projections, and we thought, okay, if we go with that kind of projections, we should be all right. We've been lucky that so far the projections have been actually under what we see in terms of a average revenue, let's say. So far, so good. We haven't had to really make, dramatic kind of decisions. But one of when people think of, oh yeah, but how do you make money? Because we're a free platform. It's true that one of the tough decisions we had to make from the get go, and we thought was going to be a problem to go ahead and try to raise funds, was the fact that we said it's free for everyone. We do not take a clip. We do not take anything out of the donations, which would have been the easy way out kind of thing. But we said we're going to be relying on donor tips. So on people tipping because they see the value of what we provide. And here it's kind of counterintuitive versus what I said before, relying on the goodwill and that kind of things. But the difference is that here we are actually providing tangible value up front. So you donate, you can get a thank you perk, something from a business, from brands that care, something that you would be happy to redeem at a specific retailer, for example. And from there, people are happy to be, because we work mostly with micro donations, people are happy to leave a tip. We actually have a very good tipping rate on the platform. It's something that was proven anyways, a model proven by companies like GoFundMe and Raisely. And it's been pretty successful for us so far. It's good to get our first, users and donors. I mean, first few hundreds by now, and to be able to confirm what we've said. So we're pretty happy with that. Be sure the forecasting part was not the easiest, but look, at some point you need to be true to your values as well. And it took a bit of time for us to have a team, the team that we have now. But I guess what works so well in the team we have is this value alignment, not just in the product. I mean, not just between us. At the end of the day, it's our values are shown in the product, and I feel it's really good, because it's really important as well. We have this consistency of who we are ourselves, who we are with others, and what we put out into the market. Authenticity is key nowadays, as TikTok has proven. I think we are pretty authentic companies. We'll try to prove you right. Yeah. Actually, it's been a pretty easy discussion. Like, I suppose the fact that I've lived the pain myself, being in the roles of most of the people that I speak with, or whether they're in marketing or founders or whatever other roles that they are into, partnership very often. I felt the pain, and it's probably easy for me to convey this pain because right away they understand. I just need to be saying stuff like, you've been giving that much to charities, and what did you get in exchange? A logo on a website and some volunteer days that no one uses, and everyone is like, "Ah, yeah, true, true." So uh, we have a success rate in terms of discussion conversion of brands coming onto the platform that is very close to 200%. It's something maybe 94 or something like that. So it's pretty easy. But again, I remind you that we are a free platform, so the risk is also very low. But what's interesting is more that those brands that come on board it's never like yeah, sure, we'll do it because it's free. It's always like, wow, what a great idea. Why did we not do it before? Or how come it doesn't exist? And, as a founder, obviously it's very nice to hear that kind of things, gives you even more even more drive. And because we're here to provide value first, they see that, and we actually aim to deliver on that value, even though we're not making anyone pay. Except for the tips, we deliver on that value. And in the way we actually build revenue, there is then the ability to boost for brand. We can help them with their marketing strategies, their impact marketing strategies, which is something that we sell as a B2B package. But first we provide value. And I guess that's the main thing. I talked about it before, but it's always the same thing. We give you value. Once you have this value, if you want more value, there are options. But anyone can do it. Any charity can join. Any charity gets a chance to be supported by brands. Any brands, whether they're small, big, just starting or not, is able to be on the platform and to start a give back program. That's actually something that one of our users recently posted online. It's called the Afternoon Social Club. They do pickleball kind of equipment. And I love that the founder went online and he made a post and he explained, look, we're just getting started. We're very new, but we didn't want to wait to start our give back program. If you donate $10, I think, to or maybe $15 to those charities, any of these charities will give you a $15 voucher to use on our equipment. And I thought, how good is that? That they would have never been able to do anything like that before, but now they are able to talk about impact, to talk about charities, give them visibility, bring awareness about those guys, and even support you as a donor with something in case you wanted to donate. Happy days. What do you mean by open up a room? Do you mean Ah, well, it's true that it's a stat that usually kind of strikes people. And also, when you say that there are 60,000 charities in Australia, people are like, "What? 60,000 charities?" But then you look at the US, it's 1.5 million. So, it's a different scale. Which, indeed, as you were talking about before, for global expansion, obviously for us, Australia is what it is. 26, 28 million people, but the market is so much bigger. And if we just look at the top 10 biggest donor country, I mean, the top 10 countries that have the biggest donation per capita in the world, the good thing is that we have a lot that are actually English speaking, which is going to make it even easier for us to scale. Anyways, I'm digressing. Sorry. Regarding the stats, it is true that it's always stopping people. It's kind of this scroll stopping thing, you know. It's always very interesting for us to play with that because at the end of the day, there's something really interesting, which is that if you talk to people, and I'm very conscious, you know, people might be saying stuff that sometimes are not necessarily um, what is not necessarily always relevant. You know, I always keep in mind the Ford thing, Henry Ford, that was saying that if he had asked people what they wanted, they would have asked for faster horses. But I guess what's interesting is that people are always keen for their money to go to impact in the donation world, except that everyone is donating to the charities that are the biggest, and that basically by definition, because they saw an ad somewhere, will be putting some of their money into marketing, operations, and everything. And I'm actually not at all trying to tell people not to do that, because it's very important those big charities get supported. They can do a job that no one else can do. But what would be great, and that's kind of the first thing we started with Staff for Change, it would be if people actually had some kind of a portfolio where they would be saying, okay, I'm going to be supporting a big charity, but I'm also going to be supporting a mid-sized charity and a grassroots one. Why? Because if I give $100 to a grassroots charity, $100 is going to go straight to impact on the ground. If I give the same to others, it's going to be a bit different. But yes, the bigger one is also going to be using this money to attract the next donors, and they're going to be doing some stuff that the grassroots is incapable of doing. In the same way as the grassroots one is doing stuff that the big one cannot do. I always like to compare, you know, those kind of three sizes of structure. If there was an accident right now in front of us on the road, we'd be the first responders, and we'd be, you know, trying to put the person in a safe situation. We'd be the grassroots ones that, you know, are here to put the band-aids. But then we need an ambulance, which is going to be probably the mid-sized kind of charity that brings it to hospital. And after that, we need someone to actually do the rehabilitation, because you're not going to leave someone who just broke everything and hey, good luck, you know, and then he never works properly anymore. It's important that we understand that there are different kind of levels of charities that do very different things. They use the funds differently as well, but it's not because they use it for marketing that it's necessarily bad. What I'm saying is I also would like the smaller guys to get some part of the cake as well. So it's a bit of an education piece for us. You know, what we're doing at the moment, what we are is a tool. We're a tool for organizations to do good. So that means actually for anyone to do good, for people to do good through donations, for businesses through championing charities, but also for charities to give to those supporters what they want, which is more transparency. And I'm really not after charities trying to explain out of $100 we give a this and that to, you know, here and there, because I think it's a very wrong way of looking at it. As I said, every organization has different challenges, and it's not because some are going to be more operation heavy versus, you know, buying rice or whatever. It doesn't mean that they are not good. So that's not what I want to do. What I want is for those organizations to have a channel to be transparent about their impact, to show that when you donate to me, something happens. And that's really the main thing. So we give them the tools for that. We give them the tools to do it, hopefully, without too much effort, because obviously charities are very time poor. We don't want them to be spending their life on social media or Tap for Change, which is some kind of a social media for good, let's say. So, but yeah, we try to do things in a way that is not too time consuming, but we do propose the tools in the platform. But there's a bit of an education piece though for us to implement. Look, I reckon it's funny, because I should have known everyone. Nowadays, I would have listened to such podcasts. I would have read stuff. I heard so many great founders, talk about it. And yet, when it comes to me, I wouldn't do it. But I should have paid a lot more attention to activation. Is really the absolute main thing that I got out of the first phase of our build. When we decided, okay, we're gonna go live, I thought, all right, we have this whole list of pre-registered businesses, but I wanted to do the exercise of go and get 30 new businesses in the platform in less than a few weeks, about 3 weeks, and took the exercise. Put a lot of efforts in that, got those, in the end, we got like 35-ish businesses, I think. But then I was thinking, I've showed them, what's in it for them. They're going to make it happen. But of course not. Of course, that's not how things happen. Once they're here, okay, now it's about how do we activate? How do I show you the value you can extract from it? This education piece we're talking about, I guess it comes back here. We need to educate everyone. The donors, they're not used to be donating and getting something in return. We need to be educating the businesses. How do you go with something that is different, that has more cut through in the market? Yes, okay, it's good on paper, but how do you actually make it happen? So that's why I started to create, some Notion files about like our impact hub as to our growth impact hubs. So with strategies and best practices to start getting your offer in the market and engaging your audience, because that's the main thing. We want brands to engage their community around the causes that they support, and then use those instant rewards to drive acquisition and advocacy. That's really the whole thing. So yeah, education around that was the absolute key thing. You can have whoever you want on the platform. If they don't do anything, what's the point? Yeah, exactly. Mhm. Well, by then, what would be first of all, one of the apps, the vision I would say is that we want to become this growth engine driven by purpose, for the world. So the goal is really to be somewhere else in 5 years. That's for sure. And when I say somewhere else, I don't mean for us specifically, but I mean Tap for Change to be much more global. In terms of what charities and businesses would get out of that, what I would want is that by then we've helped create such a culture in the modern generation, specifically Gen Z, millennials, and further, but especially in the modern generations, we would have created a culture of helping and donating that is much more on a day-to-day basis versus what it is now, where, it's end of financial year. Everyone is starting to think, oh, maybe I should donate, or it's Christmas. But what about doing it the rest of the year, So hopefully that's what we would have done by then. But what I'm hoping is that, yeah, we would have found a way to really make it super smooth as a self-serve kind of experience for charities and businesses to be matched. Because right now there is still a fair bit of manual work, even though it is doable by yourself, do help on the matching. And yeah, that those partnerships that make a lot of sense would be more and more numerous and would make so much sense to the user, the company, and the charity, that is just never ending, that they just never think, yeah, let's stop doing it. No, let's keep supporting them. Let's keep the ecosystem sustainable. And yeah, hopefully that's where we will be by then, with a thriving charitable ecosystem that includes brands, people, and charities. Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye bye.